Some things before we get into this video. If you don't want to be spoiled, then I suggest not watching this video yet, because I go over almost everything the game has to offer, and all the footage here is from Pro Safia Gaming, because I'm not sure how to record my Switch. Please enjoy the video. Hello YouTube, this is 4Leaf, and today I will be reviewing Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake. Here is the physical copy of the game. Here's the back of this game. When you open it up, you have the map of the game on the inside of it. There's Mario and Goombella. And when you take the cartridge out, you see Miss Mouse. And here's the cartridge. Let's start with the gameplay. So the gameplay isn't too different. There's a little changes here and there, except for the most part, it is very similar to the original. Some changes to badges, and there's not too many new badges. There's some different attacks for enemies, and there's not really any new enemies except for something I will say in the future. Most of the timings for guards and super guards are different, however, action commands remain relatively the same with only some minor differences. So overall, the gameplay is extremely similar to the one on the GameCube. It's actually pretty crazy how similar they are. It's like they took the code of the GameCube and they just added a few new things to it. Except there's a lot of interesting changes, and that moves me on to the difficulty. Now, in some places it's harder, and in some places it's easier. I would say that this game is slightly easier than the original Thousand Year Door, however, it's different for everyone. The story of this game remains relatively the same as the original. Most of the dialogue is the same. Some dialogue has been changed. However, it's basically going to be the same experience. This game also has a lot of controversial topics and weird themes, such as the rope in the middle of Rogueport Square and Flurry's design, and the one everyone talks about the most is this game being 30 FPS instead of 60 FPS like the GameCube was. Now, I feel like you can notice this the most on the Piranha Plant enemies. However, I don't think that it is that much of a difference considering this game, how this game is animated, and it being an RPG. Throughout most of this game, you'll have a smooth experience, except during some of the scenes, you can definitely see where the frame rate takes a tremendous hit. So it's interesting that they have these controversial topics still in the game. Now let's talk about the graphics. The graphics in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remastered are pretty good. There's a lot of smooth lighting, a lot of reflections, and everything is a lot higher quality than the original game. Now, I would understand if some people like the original graphics better because it's a lot simpler, except I think that these graphics are a step up from the original game. And speaking of the environment, you can interact with objects in the environment using your hammer now. You could only interact with very specific things in the environment in the original game, and now you can interact with a whole plethora of things with your jump and hammer. And speaking of the hammer, Mario can hammer in 360 degrees now. In the previous game, you could only hammer side to side. So this game is a lot more interactable. There's a lot of different things you can do. Now let's talk about the new music in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake. Every single track from the original game has been remixed into a new track. And there are also a lot of newer tracks as well. Tracks that have never been seen before. I think a lot of the music is inspired by Color Splash and Origami King. And of course, with new music also comes new sound effects. Every single sound effect in this game is new. Me personally, I prefer the original sound effects and music. However, I also think that these tracks are pretty good. And there is a reference, I believe there is a reference to Super Paper Mario's melody whenever you level up with Merlin in this game, although I'm not entirely sure. With all this new music, it really is the spice of life. Speaking of variety being the spice of life, now let's talk about the quality of life. There are many things in this game that make playing it seem much more accessible. For example, fast travel. There are many new pipes and springs that you can activate in order to traverse the environment much more quickly and eliminating the need for backtracking. A lot of people did not like the backtracking in the original game, and now that has been made much better in this version. There's also a new room in Rogueport Sewers, which you can go into, and it has the pipe to each chapter, so that's super useful. And although all this stuff is good, the loading times between rooms, whenever you load a new room, seem to be longer, so that's kind of disappointing. However, if you game over in this game, you can choose to retry the last scene or battle that you game overed in. And speaking of scenes, you can skip most of the scenes if you have seen them before. So that is also pretty good. And that is it for the quality of life. There's so many new animations for partners, bosses, and simple NPCs in this game. Almost every single character has a new animation. It's crazy. And speaking of crazy, let's move on to the most insane thing about this remake. New content. There is new content in this remake. Now I went over the new music, the new fast travel, the new animations, except here is the real new content. Now there is a badge that you can buy in the badge shop called Nostalgic Tunes. You can buy it for 1 coin, and it transforms all the music into the original music on the GameCube. And there's also a badge that you get for 100%ing the game called, I think it's Gold Medal or something, I don't really remember. Except you can put on this badge and it transforms your character into a golden Mario. In order to 100% the game, you need to get all the recipes. I'm not sure if there are new recipes. You need to get all the badges. You need to get all the tattles. And speaking of tattles, there are new tattles. And that brings me to the greatest new content of all. New bosses. There are 2 new secret bosses in Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door Remake. with 3 new titles as well. The way to obtain one of the secret bosses is to complete chapter 3 and then complete Jolene's Trouble. And after a little bit of time, you should receive an email from Prince Mush, and then you should go back to the glitch pit and then log on to the Game Boy Advance. You don't have to go through the entire glitch pit again, and then select the exhibition match against Prince Mush, and then the battle will commence. This is the Battle of Prince Mush. I think this is the first time you canonically, I'm not sure. This is the first time you fight a Toad in a Mario game. And I'm not going to say too much about these secret bosses. However, I will say that this fight is pretty crazy. He's dodging everywhere. He can do attacks that deal HP and FP damage and all sorts of other stuff. He can change stances, and it's pretty crazy. In order to unlock the next secret boss, you have to go through the entire pit of 100 trials, including Bonetail, and then you have to go to Kill Hawkeye and hit Wacka until he does not come back. Then after a very long time, you will get an email that says, hey, go to the pit of 100 trials. And then you have to go through the entire pit of 100 trials again. At least there's a mover there that will take you down to 450 for 300 coins. I like Super Paper Mario, except one of the things I did not want them to bring back was having to go through the pit of 100 trials multiple times. Anyway, you do all that, and then you'll meet the secret boss on floor 100. And the super secret boss is Wacka. This boss is very unique. Every time you hit Wacka, he will drop a Wacka bump, which he can use to heal or attack. And you can also do some other stuff too that I'll keep secret for this video. And basically, the strategy for this boss fight is to deal as much damage as you can before he is able to do anything to you, because this boss can easily deal hundreds of damage. So defeating him very quickly is a very good idea. So you defeat Wacka, and then after that he drops a gold Wacka bump, and that's the end of the super secret boss fights in this game. Wow. Pretty cool. That's everything I wanted to go over. I will say my favorite part about this remake was definitely the final boss. They improved that a lot. My final score for this game is a 9 out of 10. It is a pretty good remake, and I will recommend it to anyone who enjoyed the original or anyone who likes games in general. With that, my review comes to a close.
Skip that.
Here are the credits. The credits are also changed, and that's the end. Thank you so much for watching, and please rate, comment, and subscribe.